Today, Michigan became the 24th state in the union to pass so-called right-to-work legislation. A major birthplace of the labor movement in America became the latest target of the right wing. Big-moneyed interests who have methodically infiltrated state houses across this nation. This is what's happening. It's time to pay attention. Thousands of protesters jammed the Capitol in Lansing, Michigan, as the lame duck session passed the right-to-work bill. Outside the Capitol, demonstrators made their passions known.
Right to work is wrong! 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 Right to work is wrong!
These protesters are well informed and understand exactly what is happening in their state today.
They want to be able to control us, and they want to be able to set the pay rates for us, set our benefits, and do all that. We're not going to have any bargaining rights, not going to have anything. You know what? Have Schneider and those guys come and walk in our job one day. Have them come and do what we do one day, and I guarantee you, for what we work for right now, isn't even compared to what we should be getting.
I've been a member of this union for 63 years. And I've never seen that would ever happen in the state of Michigan, to have this right to work thing. And I do know it's political. That's all it is. When the Koch brothers put all that money into Michigan here, and we just showed a film on the coach about the Koch brothers, they financed this thing. And this thing been going on not just this year, but for the last 2 years.
Leo Gerard, president of the United Steelworkers International, is at the International Global Union Conference in Geneva today. He tells me the North American unions will unite and fight this tooth and nail with every legal and legislative means at their fingertips. Teachers joined the protests in Lansing today, forcing 2 Michigan school districts to close. Meanwhile, Governor Snyder is still blaming labor for forcing him into this position by pushing Proposal 2 last summer.
I believe in collective bargaining, but this was way over the top. And I asked him not to go forward. Well, the voters spoke in November and dramatically voted down Proposal 2, but then this right-to-work discussion just continued to escalate and was becoming very divisive. So the way I viewed it is, it's on the table, it's a hot issue, let's show some leadership. So I stepped up to say, when I review it, I think it's a good thing. It's about being pro-worker.
The real story is how this all happened, and it all leads back to the Koch brothers. Americans for Prosperity, the right-wing organization founded by the Koch brothers, is one of the big moneyed interests behind Right to Work. A sister organization, American Legislative Exchange, or ALEC, as we've pointed out so many times, also funded by the Koch brothers, writes dozens of proposed legislation for states across the country. Michigan's proposed Right to Work bills mirror ALEC language practically word for word. David Axelrod tweeted out today, the Kochs were crushed from coast to coast on Election Day. Now they're back, leading a lightning strike on the middle class in Michigan. This is a classic case of billionaires manipulating democracy. Organizations like ALEC and Americans for Prosperity do their best to operate in the shadows, exerting pressure on lawmakers to do their bidding or be primary. That's the consequence. These right-to-work groups reportedly threatened Michigan Senate Majority Leader Randy Richville's leadership post and promised him a primary challenge in 2014 if he refused to move forward with right-to-work legislation. None of the Republicans who voted for this measure today ran on the right-to-work platform. None of them campaigned on it. If these Republicans had run on it, they'd have never been elected in the first place. Billionaires like the Koch brothers are doing political payback due to the automobile loan that has been so successful in Michigan. They're putting pressure on lawmakers behind closed doors. And we need to shed more and more light on this, just like voter suppression efforts across the country that backfired. The right-to-wing infrastructure in state houses across the country is strong and well-financed. And one of their objectives is to completely dismantle the infrastructure on the progressive side. The progressives need to be aware of this. And, of course, that's the unions. It's their infrastructure. They are right-wing groups who are just out there to fight right to work and get it passed. One of them is called the West Michigan Policy Forum, and it's funded by some of Michigan's biggest Republican donors. Its chairman, Doug DeVos, who's the president of Amway. The West Michigan Policy Forum was key to funding the defeat of Prop 2 last summer. Yet another group, Michigan Freedom Fund, ran ads in support of right-to-work legislation. It also has ties to the DeVos family in Michigan. Of course, President Obama weighed in on this yesterday when he was in the state of Michigan, and I think the president got right to the heart of the matter and was on point.
These so-called right-to-work laws, they don't have to do with economics. They have everything to do with politics. What they're really talking about is giving you the right to work for less money.
Joining me now is Andy Kroll, reporter for Mother Jones Magazine. Great to have you with us tonight, Andy. Take us behind the curtain and explain the relationship of the Koch brothers and all of these right-to-work organizations that have been pushing this behind the scenes.
What you see in Michigan, behind the scenes, as you say, are a number of grassroots groups. They have names like Americans for Prosperity, like Michigan Freedom Fund, and so forth. And they are there to push lawmakers to pass right-to-work legislation. They are funded, as you say, by some of the biggest interests on the conservative side. We're talking about the Koch brothers. We're talking about the DeVos family of the Amway fortune. We're talking about the Prince family. Eric Prince used to run Blackwater. And so you have just the largest funders, especially in the Midwest, but also in the country, backing conservative policies, wanting to cut taxes, wanting to kneecap unions, pouring money into this fight and making sure that in this lame duck session, Governor Snyder and the Republican legislature get this thing done, because it is at the very top of their to-do list.
Well, the Koch brothers have figured it out. Every elected official wants to get reelected. So this is standard operating procedure for them to go to a key lawmaker and say, look, you either put this on the floor or we're going to primary you and we're going to fund the person that we're putting up against you. I mean, it's really threatening legislation.
It is. And not only do they have this incredible arsenal of money behind them, the Americans for Prosperity type groups, but they can also call on their volunteers, their staffers. They can bust people in from out of the state, and they can protest and they can organize for the opponents as well.
And how identical is the ALEC language and what we're seeing proposed in these states, especially in Michigan?
And the content of the ALEC bill and the Michigan bill, it is pretty much the same thing. They have to change the wording a little bit to avoid looking like it was a cut and paste job, but in the intent, in the what they're trying to accomplish, we're really looking at the same objective here.
Here's more from Governor Rick Snyder on all of this. I want to play this.
This is about being pro-workers, giving workers the choice. If anything, this should encourage unions to be more responsive to workers in terms of saying they need to show a value proposition of why they're a great place to join. And I've met a number of people that said they would like to choose to join the union or have the flexibility not to, and they believe they'll get better accountability from unions. So in many respects, it could be a positive for unions over the longer term.
So Snyder has been saying all along that this has not been on his agenda, although he's got the talking points down.
Right.
Are they coming from the Koch brothers as well? Is he taking marching orders?
Yeah, these talking points are the same things you see from the Koch-funded Americans for Prosperity, that you see from the DeVosses, that you see from the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., that pillar of conservative policy and advocacy. It's all the same thing around the country.
I want to get to what their mission is, and that is to get rid of the Democratic infrastructure. This issue of dues and who has to pay and who doesn't, a lot of members would not pay their dues if it had not been taken out of their check. So now obviously they've got to come up with a way to make sure the dues get paid. But those dues are used in many respects to support proactive issues for workers in the state. Is this not just an effort to defund all of that, create confusion in the labor community, to weaken them so they can't be legislatively as strong?
Look, the conservative side, the Kochs especially, understand that the labor world, labor unions are the pillar of funding for the Democratic Party. When you defund labor unions, you defund the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And when the Democratic Party is not there, you can pass right to work, you can cut income tax, you can have the conservative nirvana that you want. But the labor unions have been a stalwart on the Democratic and progressive side.
Yeah.
And this is an effort to kneecap them and get them out of the picture.
And I also think that the automobile loan played such a crucial role in the victory for President Obama, and what a thorn in the side it was for the Romney campaign. They never really knew how to handle it. This is big-time political payback, as I see it. Andy Kroll, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.